All right, welcome. So today's talk is going to be nutrition and fueling basics for endurance athletes. Again, this is going to be something I've been working on for a while and something that will just continue to evolve and add a little more to it. But it's going to be that baseline as that talk that we need to start having for nutrition and fueling for our endurance athletes out there. As for myself, if you're not one of the coached athletes tuning in, I'm Ken Jr. I've been coaching for a couple years now. Been an athlete for quite a few years, anywhere from the triathlon world, from sprint to Ironman distance, 5K to ultra running. I love running, and I have a history of focused strength training as well before I got into endurance sports. And I'm a current Ironman U and USCA Run certified coach. So really, what's the objective today, right? We want to start the conversation, create a simplified structure and approach to nutrition and fueling for endurance sports. And this is something I kind of wanted to put together to take the guesswork out of the nutrition and fueling and create a layered approach to it. It's taking, again, an all-in approach, not an all-consumed approach. So we don't want to dive in right away and start talking about numbers and macro content and the amount of grams we need to fuel per hour. We just want to look at it with kind of a broad spectrum before we dig in and go to these next levels and become more individualized with it. We want to differentiate between daily nutrition and fueling for the workouts because that is two big different types of things we have to work on. And this is going to be a leveled approach to the topic. Again, it's building this pyramid starting at the bottom. We can't finish that pyramid off if we don't have this solid foundation going on at the bottom. So let's talk about the importance of nutrition. And one big problem we have is us as endurance athletes, we like to perform, but we work out because we want to look good. We want to feel good, right? That's for most age group athletes. We just want to have a healthy lifestyle. And then there becomes this balance, typically, inevitably at some point, where we feel that if you look at non-endurance athletes, really, I mean, if they were to eat the food that we eat to fuel ourselves and our daily nutrition for these type of events, it probably wouldn't lead to be a very balanced diet because you're probably going to be taking in and consuming more than you're using. We need to look at basically food as a fuel and what it's doing for us and continue with that. So, athletes, we focus on body composition and want to burn calories. Like we'd like to look at that probably burned a lot of calories in that workout. I'm going to, lose a little bit of weight with that. And, we don't want to ruin the results that we're getting by burning those calories if we're looking for a good type of body composition. And then maybe we don't fuel properly at the right times, or we're not creating that pyramid and follow throughing on it. And then what happens is, for endurance athletes, if we're not following through with the proper amount of fueling and nutrition, it creates this high stress cycle in the body, and we're under fueling our workouts, and then we're under fueling our bodies. We're not going to recover properly, and then our performance is going to suffer. So you may be putting in the right training, the volume and intensity that your coach is giving you, but if you're not properly fueling daily and with your workouts, your recovery will suffer, and you're not going to get the performance gains you're looking for. So this is that vicious cycle. Then our body is very adaptable to what we do to it is start to lose functional mass, which is muscle, retain non-functional mass, which is fat, because your body's basically saying, well, you're starving me. So even though I'm not getting the right amount of calories, I'm going to start using muscle for fuel as opposed to what we should be using, which is the food we're putting in our body. And then inevitably, we're just going to kind of build a little more fat. And this is especially important for endurance athletes if you're not following some type of strength program as well. The cycle will just continue as the body is telling itself, I am underfueled and starved, so I'll preserve myself and store everything I can. And this will all start to make sense to you as we go through here. So what we have to talk about is this, I say it a lot, nutrient timing. There's a lot of research and studies just on this one topic. And we have to ask the question, what is nutrient timing? Nutrient timing involves the purposeful ingestion of all types of nutrients at various times throughout the day to favorably impact the adaptive response to acute and chronic exercise, muscle strength and power, body composition, and physical performance, etc. What the heck does that mean? So we have to take in treating food as fuel at the right time of day to support what we need to do. whether that is to prepare for an activity, to continue with the activity, intra, during, or post-activity, recovery, fueling, or later in the day, still recovering a little bit, but preparing for the next activity, which is going to be probably the next day if you're an endurance athlete. So that's something we have to think about, and different types of fueling require different parts of the day, I should say, require different parts of fueling, and this is what we call the nutrient timing window for each of those different layers. So let's get into the pyramid now. Let's get into the bulk, that big percentage of what we could do to just fix this problem and get great results by just really visiting this one big block right here. We need to periodize our nutrition, and what that means is if we're building towards a goal race, an A race, a marathon, a half Ironman, an Ironman, we could lose a little bit of weight by our body composition changing a little bit just from the adaptation to the stresses of training. But if you're somebody who has a goal of weight loss along with performance, we need to periodize that throughout the year, where when we're not building for this race, we can concentrate on a little bit more calorie restriction and the workouts needed to get that weight goal. But then we need to remember, we need to not get in that vicious cycle where performance can suffer or lead to injury, is make sure we're fueling ourselves properly and getting through the training plan that we need to do so we have successful performance. So you have to balance that. Like, you can't, it's very tough to say a hefty weight loss goal and performance at the same time for one of these goals. It'd be easier to break the two apart throughout the year, treat them as different types of training plans, and create those goals as you go along. Nutrition basics. So we're talking daily nutrition. This is just overall big picture, zooming out what you're consuming day in and day out. Calories, right? Calories in, calories burn. It's a unit of heat. Unit of heat used to indicate the amount of energy that foods will produce in the human body. So everything we take in, if we treat calories as energy, if we're taking in too many calories and we're not burning it, it's going to get stored, i.e. may turn into fat. Or if our body is craving this energy, we need it for preparing for an activity, during an activity, or recovering from an activity, it's okay to take these calories in because our body will be using them. Most of them for endurance athletes, very important one is carbohydrates, sugars, which are simple, and starches, which are complex. So sugars, there's a lot of those sugary drinks and goos that we take with that instant energy, and then complex stuff. We're talking potatoes, sweet potatoes, vegetables, things like that are going to be more beneficial outside of the training, that are slower, longer sustaining energy that we need for day-to-day activities. And proteins are made up of amino acids. They're needed for the body to function properly. Amino acids, we need them to just function in general. We need them to repair. We need them to keep our muscular ability to just keep ourselves together. If you don't take in protein, you're not going to help that amino acid profile in your body, and performance will suffer. Inevitably, we just start from the basics here. Daily nutrition. Start looking at some of the things you do eat on a daily basis and just revisit those things. Maybe what you used to eat is not going to be conducive to the goals you're looking for now, whether that be weight loss or performance, and start just seeing, like, what are these things that I am eating? How many servings am I having? How many calories are these servings? How much fat, carbs, and protein content are in these foods that I'm consuming? And again, this is before, during, after workouts, or just your daily nutrition. Just start reading the labels, even on your supplements. You know, I get people that say, I take this product on my run. I said, well, did you look at the label? They look at it, and there's really no carbohydrates in it. It's just an electrolyte. So what you may think is going to be this energy, this caloric intake, is actually not. It doesn't have the energy that we need for that type of activity that we're doing. So start that now. Just, again, look at things, start to understand things. If you have questions, please reach out, but start to understand what you're actually consuming on the daily. Real quick, we're going to touch on fad diets, because as I talk to athletes, one thing I say is, what's your current diet? What are you doing? And sometimes they'll come out and say, I'm currently on a restrictive diet. I'm on a vegetarian diet. I'm on a keto diet. I'm on all kinds of different things. And there are different reasons why different people need to be on these diets, and that's fine. But just understand fad diets and try and stay away from them. They're called that for a reason. As an endurance athlete, your main source of fuel needs to come from carbohydrates, specifically complex carbohydrates. So don't restrict protein and good fats either. Our bodies, we're doing activity a lot more than the average person, and we're going to need a full complement of nutritional profile across the board in order to have our bodies be able to perform. We're not sedentary individuals just looking for this one goal of weight loss. We are looking for a sustainable way to fuel ourselves as well as get our goals that we want, with either it be body composition, performance, or both of them. Simple rules for daily nutrition here is for endurance athletes: don't skip meals, eat healthy between meals. You should be having a breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner, set food, set meals, real food, eating healthy snacks in between, and limit processed food. Instead of grabbing something that's just convenient, try and grab something that has some more of a nutritional profile. We're often emptying the tank week after week in training, and we're going to need this type of intake to be able to keep up with our body and help recovery. Bring things with you. If you have family events and kids events and things going on, get a little to-go cabinet of stuff, of good snacks and good things that you can actually fuel on, and hydrate. Be that person that, brings water around, brings that bottle around. Be that person and keep track of it, and just constantly, like, if you are, it's going to stink when you're out somewhere for 2-3 hours. And if you think you are going somewhere for 2-3 hours, please bring and grab something, because that may turn into something else and you may be out even longer. And now you have this long period of almost fasting and no hydration in the middle of a day when you have another hard workout coming the next day. So just constantly keep fueling, as I will right now. And mix in those superfoods when you can, those unprocessed foods: blueberries, avocado, salmon, almonds, walnuts, dark leafy greens, unsweetened yogurt, broccoli, tomatoes, whole oats, quinoa, chia seeds, dark chocolate, beans, eggs, sweet potatoes. Good things. Think about one of these, if you can kind of grow it, if you can kill it type of thing, ancestry type food, that'll keep you away from the processed food of today. Again, I know there's convenient options out there: to-go bars, meal replacement shakes. Again, if you have to, that's fine. It's a lot better than some of the alternatives out there, but just try and be grabbing as much of those unprocessed foods as you can throughout the day, and base your meals off and around them. Remember to add in those good fats and protein. It's not just all about, carbohydrates. We definitely need to get that full profile in. And just like training, 80-20, right? If 80% of the time we're doing this right, you are light years ahead of the game. I'm not one of those people that thinks, we do this for fun. We want to have fun doing it. If you're trying it 100% of the time, you get upset that you're not hitting the mark every time, that's just gonna cause a little more internal stress for yourself. So again, take that 80-20 approach to this. That daily nutrition is, if you're doing pretty dang good 80% of the time, and your decisions 80% of the time, you're way ahead of the game on this. Now, we're all into tracking. We track our miles. We track what heart rate we're at. We track our power. We do all these things. Track our training. But are we tracking our actual diet and daily nutritional intake? Again, we're still on that level 1 right here. There's so much work we can do for that daily nutrition to just clean that up in order to start building the ladder going up. A couple things you can do and reference is a book, Racing Weight by Matt Fitzgerald. Very simple thing. If you don't want to get into counting calories, which we're going to get into in a second, is this will give you a baseline for, they like to go by the DQS, the diet quality score, which is, as you can make almost like this little scorecard sheet, print a bunch of them and carry it around with you throughout the day. As you make decisions and have that serving throughout the day, you kind of circle what you're having. So you kind of just see where you're at. Obviously, you're going to get more points for fruits, and again, everything in moderation. So you can't just eat fruit and vegetables all day. You want to have a balanced, healthy diet. So if you kind of circle around what you got, you can kind of score yourself at the end of the day and see how well you did for your diet quality score throughout the day. So if there's something you're interested in, this is a great book by Matt Fitzgerald. And again, that DQS is something that you could use if you like tracking things on a day-to-day basis. MyFitnessPal, I've been down that road before. Great for people if you're in that time of year where you're looking for weight loss, because it really holds you accountable to every piece of nutrition and fuel that you're going to consume because you have to log it. If you're taking it, you're logging it. You may not want to grab those little handful of M&Ms because you're going to have to log it. That's how you start limiting the amount of calories if you're having a problem with losing weight. You can also dig into this more if you're worried or interested in seeing your macronutrient breakdown, how many carbs versus fat versus protein. But this is just another way to get more in depth if you really want to start digging in on what exactly you're consuming. Not necessarily needed, I don't feel, for the typical age group endurance athlete that is kind of hovers at their racing weight. But this is a great option for someone who's really looking to kind of limit down and take down some of the weight pre-season. Remember the P's, the 7 P's, proper planning and preparation prevents piss poor performance. Craziness after I moved at the end of the year, and with work and coaching and training and all this other stuff going on, I used to be very diligent the last couple years of training with meal prep. I just haven't had the opportunity or time to really just sit down and just like figure out my weeks and meal prep for the weeks. But thankfully, there's other services out there. This is Redefined Meals. They've opened up so many locations across Long Island, and they're really, it's great. You can go online, you can order their meals. They'll ship them to the store or ship them to your house. You can throw them in the freezer, take them out as you need. So right now, I've been doing this the last few weeks, if not the last few months, more diligently, is just buying 20 meals at a clip. You get a nice little discount. I would say the average meal there usually comes out to about $10. And they're about 500 to 600 calories per meal. You can get some lighter, lower carb options, and you can get, more caloric options as breakfast foods and dinner foods. But it's great because I can take 1 or 2 of these out, let them thaw the night before, throw them in my bag at work, and I have some decently balanced diets with a good amount of carbohydrates in there and protein with good foods that are going to fuel me without making that bad decision during work and going out to eat and having a bunch of junk and high caloric processed foods. So this has been my go-to right now. And really, honestly, for like $10 though, where else are you going to get a decently balanced meal that is not superly caloric from unprocessed foods? I mean, this is cheaper than almost going to fast food now at this point. All right, this is something I had saved a while ago from last year. This is professional triathlete Lionel Sanders. Again, even professional athletes, they are so focused in on wind tunnel testing, efficiency on the bike, efficiency in the swim, running, so many different layers because this is their livelihood. They need to make money for racing and provide for their family. But from time to time, they have to come back and revisit certain things. And he was wondering why his performance was lacking. And he found out my daily nutrition, I just been kind of eating whatever the hell I want. So this was a revelation he had, and I'm going to play that real quick, a quick clip. And this is professional triathlete Lionel Sanders on his daily nutrition.
Because I'm going to spend the whole season talking about what I have discovered. And it is, you are what you eat. You eat like a bag of fucking shit. You feel like a bag of fucking shit. And that is what I have truly learned.
So there you go. It was just something funny, a clip that I had sent to a friend and I had saved it. I thought it'd be great for this. It's just the end of that level 1. At the end of the day, he said it right. If you eat like a bag of shit, you're going to feel like a bag of shit. If you eat junk at night, you're going to feel like junk in the morning before your run. This is something I revisit from time to time. I'm not perfect on it. I revisit this, daily nutrition thing, this bottom of the pyramid when I start to see certain things suffering in my training, and it comes back to this and I start making better decisions again. So just something a little I thought I'd throw in here. Hopefully the audio played on the recording here, and let's continue on. So level 2 now. We're hitting this level 2 right here. Pre and intra training nutrition. Fuel ahead, plan ahead. Questions to ask yourself. How long are you training? How intense are you training? Hyponatremia, if you're not sure what that is, that's if you drink just water a lot and you're like, I drink a lot of water, I don't understand. You might actually be flushing your system out. So you have to start adding in some electrolytes along throughout the day with that water that you're drinking. So this is going to be that second level. You've already now gotten that first level pretty good. We're going into the second level right here. Electrolytes, kind of what are they? What are these electrolyte profiles they have: sodium, chlorine, magnesium, calcium, potassium, balance your fluids in your body, maintains your blood's proper pH, carry electrical signals from nerves to muscles. Think about that. Think about the bonk when people cramp, people stop moving, people can't move their legs, they're deep in a race. What's going on? Well, their electrical signals are probably getting a little jacked up because they're not holding an electrolyte balance anymore in their body, whether because they didn't fuel or they overhydrated and flushed their body out, which is a very big thing. Even leading into race day, we need to remember to mix in electrolytes a little bit into our profile as we're getting ready for these races. So something to remember, if you're going to hydrate, something I started at work recently is I get to work in the morning. I've already consumed a little bit. I fill up a half-gallon jug, but sometime throughout the day, I pour out into a little container, a nice big serving of water, and I put a scoop of electrolytes in it, mix it up, and take that in the middle of the day just to replenish my body and give myself some more of that electrolyte profile throughout the day. So very cheap. There's plenty of electrolyte brands out there. I like the brand Ultima, but there's so many out there. And something, just a tip. If you're drinking a lot of water, that's all you drink. You're not you don't like really anything else, you're a good water drinker, mix in a little bit of electrolytes. Again, we're a little different than the average human being. We are endurance athletes. We like to push ourselves a little bit, and we do require a little bit more fuel. So pre and intra training nutrition. This is a nice, brief little window into kind of the first steps that you may want to take for this type of fueling and what I have found has worked for me in the past. Remember, whatever we're burning, typically, especially if high intensity, high volume work, we really can't replace all we're burning throughout that activity. You can take in more than we burn as well. So there's different thoughts on this. Is, if you're only going for an easy run, you're not going to burn a lot. There's no reason to take 60 to 70 grams of carbs throughout that hour because you may not be burning that much. So you may wind up taking in exactly, way too much more. And where's all that going to go? If you're not using it, it's going to get stored. So these are things we just have to think about, is this little spectrum here and this little bit of duration with the amount of carbohydrates needed. Remember that running burns a little bit more than biking, just as a totality. Biking we can process more than running though. So think about that for triathletes. If we fuel very well on the bike, we have a way of loading ourselves so that when we get onto the run, which we're going to deplete quicker, the fuel will be onboarded, ready to be used. And in that time frame, that transition that we're going to have to the run is a small enough time where we'll be able to use that fuel that we accumulated on the bike. And that is why for triathletes, fueling on the bike is super, super important. If you start feeling it on the run, and you start going down that bonk road on the run of a triathlon, it's going down that road and it's not going to end well. The reason for that is we cannot really consume the amount we need to on the run, just because, think about it, the body, it's physiologically more demanding to be running. Your body's jostling around. It's just harder to take in the amount we need. Whereas on the bike, we're a little more cool, calm, and collective. Typically a lower heart rate, less stress on the body, and we're able to intake a lot more on the bike and properly fuel the bike with a little bit extra to start that run. And we're talking a mix of simple and complex carbs. Typically though, all those gels and all those powders, they have these mixes in there already. So when you're taking it, some of it gets digested straight into your bloodstream right away, and then there's some that takes a little bit of time, over the course of that half hour to hour to be able to work its way in, so it can fuel you for the entire duration that stuff's in your body. Careful with protein during activity. Again, this is the pre and intra phase we're talking about right now. It's just not that you can't have any of it. Some of the mixes do have a small amount, but don't be going to eat no chicken breasts or steaks out there on the bike and the run. That's not really going to settle too well in your stomach and could cause some GI issues. And it's important to talk about this now because we need to train the gut. Things we do now, early on in the year or early on in our training, we just magnify and can add a little bit more. This is something that 2 weeks before an Ironman, you can't say, oh man, I fueled like crap. I think I'm going to amp up my carbs to 80 grams of carbs an hour, and check it, your stomach is going to go, no. So it may not be the product that's causing a problem. It may be the way we introduce it to our body and the way that we actually loaded this product in our training. So on that graph, if we wanted to break it down real quick, you've been staring at it for a few minutes now, is, think about it. Know yourself. Like I know for me, I can go up to about an hour's worth of activity, easy running, easy biking, and really not need anything. A little splash here and there. Maybe I'll take something right before the run. That's what I typically do on my runs in the morning now, is on my way to the location I'm going to run at, I just have a little bit of carbs. I'm good for the hour. But if I'm conversely now going to an hour at the track and running hard intervals, I may want to bring a bottle with carbohydrates with me because I'm going to be depleting myself a little bit. As far as biking, anytime I now start going up to 2 hours, then I start fueling for the full 2 hour range. I'll add a bottle for the first hour and a bottle for the second hour. As you can see in the graph there, you're starting to get towards 30 to 60 grams of carbs an hour. Obviously, if you're a little bigger, myself, I'm about 180 to 185 pounds. I, during a 70.3 now, or anywhere from 60 to 75 grams of carbs per hour is my goal. Sometimes, depending on heat and course, could be even a little more than that. And that's something that's going to be individualized and you're going to work. But the basis of this is you need to start learning when you need to start taking these carbohydrates and do that through training. And plan ahead. This is my typical setup. I took a picture of this a while back. I was deep in a 70.3 build. This I probably had close to a 50 or 60 mile bike ride with a little bit of a runoff. So what is this right here? I pack everything the night before, all my gear's laid out. I wake up, I get out of bed, I go start to load the car. I take my little shake on the left, which I think I might be showing you what that is by the end of this presentation. It's just, my typical morning little shake, my little wake up shake. And then everything's packed. I'm on the way to where I'm going to ride my bike. I just need to get these carbs in quick in the morning. Some people have bagels, some people have bananas. My go-to right now is Pop-Tarts. It's like 60-something grams of carbs for both pastries. I'll eat that. Again, not great for breakfast on a day when I'm not training or a rest day, but good because I know I'm going to need this fuel to burn on that day that I'm training. And then I'll load each bottle exactly the same, where I'm loading a full serving of infinite powder for myself. It's about almost 60 grams of carbs per bottle. The ride is probably going to take me about 2.5 hours, so I'm going to be fueling one bottle for the first 20 miles, a gel, second bottle, next 20 miles, another gel, third bottle for the remainder, trying to finish it before I finish the bike ride to fuel my 2 or 3 mile run off the bike. And then what we have on the right is what I'm planning for one of the next layers of nutrition we're going to talk about is recovery, some type of recovery shake for when I'm all done. It's a meal replacement shake that has carbs and protein in it. So I start that process of recovery because guess what? With that workout, I probably had to do about an hour and a half, 2 hour run the next day. So I'm already thinking ahead, preparing my body for the next day. Here we go, level 3, post-training nutrition. That's what we were just talking about. This is that nutrient timing window within 30 minutes of completion typically. We want to rehydrate, contain carbs and protein. So that mix that I use, it's by BPN, Bare Performance. It's their Strong Foods mix. It'll probably anywhere between 30, 40 grams of carbs and same set amount of protein within that. And that's going to jumpstart my recovery. Because what's typical of us endurance athletes, we finish up at the park. We like to put our stuff away, maybe just hang out, stretch a few seconds. Our friends come off their bikes. We like to talk to them for 20 minutes, take a ride home, put all your stuff away, want to take a shower. Next thing you know, it's been an hour, hour and a half. You haven't eaten what you should have been eating, and you may fall asleep on the couch, take a little nap for a half hour, wake up, and all of a sudden your body just is stiff. It doesn't feel good. And then you're like, oh, I got to eat. Then you have this big meal. You're like, I can eat whatever I want, right? But what did you just train your body? I'm going to work you really hard, and then I'm going to starve you, and then I'm going to give you a lot of food, and your body says, thank you for this. I'm going to store all this, and i.e. probably fat, not really go into recovery because it thinks you're going to do this to it again. So it's very adaptive, the body, just like it is responsive to our training in what you're doing fuel-wise for it. So that's post-training right there, within 30 minutes, kickstarts recovery, think ahead, plan ahead. That's the big takeaway. If you got a big session ahead and you're traveling to go, run with friends, 20 minutes away, whatever, bring something or plan on stopping to get something as soon as you're done. Easiest are these shakes. You just mix them up when you're done and you can start sipping on them while you're talking and hanging out and you don't have to rush. And just beware of the reward eating and overfueling. did your workout justify going to the diner and eating that huge stack of pancakes and whatnot? If it was just a 2 hour easy run, was it really, is that really going to benefit you? But if you were doing some race pace efforts that day, you're a couple weeks out from your race, and that was probably the highest volume you've done all year, chances are you're probably going to need that fuel. So we've heard daily nutrition, pre and intra, post nutrition. Now we have that cycle. We're eating throughout the day, fueling ourselves pre-workout, during workout, fueling ourselves post-workout, hitting our nutrient timing right. Awesome. Now the next step of that is quality. How can we revisit these 3 steps and start brushing up on it? Maybe adding in some more nutrient-dense foods in our daily nutrition, finding the right products and the right amount that we need to fuel ourselves pre and intra. Post-nutrition, again, shakes are good. Are whole foods better? Can we make a better decision or find a better type of shake? These are just the things we need to think about. Revisit the bottom part of it. What can we clean up? What can we do better? Are we dialed in? Can I have a little bit more? Can I push a little bit more grams of carbs on that bike ride for the triathletes out there? Just think about these things, revisit it from time to time. Again, just like Lionel Sanders in that video, he had to go down because he was wondering his performance was suffering and wasn't hitting his metrics in training. He was wondering what's going on. Well, he found out he was just eating because he wanted to eat, and again, was doing that crave eating, just thinking I can eat whatever I want because I'm burning it. And you know how your friends might joke about you, especially if you do have that racing weight and you kind of carry it all year, like a nice slender profile is, oh, you train so much you can eat whatever you want. It's not entirely true. Again, you are what you eat. Just because you may not be putting the weight on doesn't mean that what you're eating isn't affecting your performance. Now we head to level 5. This is supplements, vitamins, things we can add, some things that we may be lacking. Because I get asked a decent amount from athletes is, hey, what's some good supplements? What are you taking? What are you doing? What are people taking? Well, it's all the way at the top, because if you're not doing these 4 things habitually, cycling, like really revisiting those things for an extended period of time, why do we want to get involved and spend money on things that we're looking for? Again, this is the way society is, those quick fixes, those instant things. And I'm telling you right now, there's no magic pill or potion to endurance sports that take this, you're going to the World Championships in Ironman. It ain't happening. You need to have that day in, all in, day in and day out, level 1, 2, 3, and 4 in order to be successful. So what is 5 though? It is something that should be spoken about. And I ask you, why start taking something if you don't know what you're missing? We're supplementing. Supplementing means taking something that maybe we're not getting. So what can we do? We could go see our doctor and get a full blood panel. Sometime good to do that would be after your season is over. Maybe you are deficient in something. I myself, after last year, had a lot of blood work done, and I was lacking in some things. And I did go on protocols through the doctor to actually help and replenish these things. So that was a time where I needed to visit this top part of the pyramid on there. Certain different things that people talk about: iron, fish oil, vitamin D, multivitamins. Are they needed? There's so many different studies out there that say, maybe if you're having this daily nutrition and it's good and you have quality, why do you have to go and have a multivitamin? If your levels are all good, why do you need it? So we don't know what you're missing. So this is something you have to talk to with your doctor, and a good time to get it deep into a training plan or on the off season, because those are 2 different stressors on the body. Our body is a pretty good homeostasis after a long year, and we're back to kind of like base building. It's kind of like where our body should feel healthiest. And then deep into training is, what have I done? How many bridges have I burned through training where I may be actually lacking something? Caffeine is a supplement. It is mixed in a lot of different things. The only thing I say with that is, if you're going to use it properly, use it to your advantage. Is it necessary to use caffeine when you're going for an easy run or an easy bike? Because your body will build a tolerance to it. This is something where if you're used to using caffeine with some of your supplementation, you can use it effectively for a good performance enhancement. For myself, I will stagger, especially through like a 70.3 race. Start the day, really no caffeine, into some caffeine at the end of the bike, and then caffeine onto the run, and kind of peak into the day. If you started too early, you're probably going to have a recipe for disaster. And that's just, again, something to think about. Caffeine is a performance booster. Creatine has made its way into the talks of the endurance world. The only good thing about creatine and what I've read about it is a very highly studied supplement, and they say it is probably one of the safer supplements to take just because it is so studied as opposed to a lot of the other things that kind of come in and off of the market. So again, that's something you can look up as well if it will benefit you. Tart cherry juice, some people like it for recovery. Beet juice, reduce oxygen consumption, longer time to exhaustion. Again, if you're just getting into sport, don't even look at all this. Worry about your training. Worry about your consistency there. Worry about all the pyramids. There's so many levels to get better that you don't need to worry about this. These are just things that are out there in terms and what your friends are going to say that worked for them and this and that. But again, stay in your lane with things. Understand yourself. Understand your ability and where you need to learn other things and be more consistent, whether it's in your training or your just daily nutrition, and work on those things first. Race day tips. Again, this is a generalized nutritional talk. This is not a race specific type race day, what to do, what to take. But remember, high carb, low fiber with some fat and protein 3 hours before the start will inevitably get you kicked off to that day. This could also be a very long training day deep into your training that we're talking about. Drink a sports drink or mix up to the race, possibly a gel 30 to 45 minutes pre-start. This is kind of starting to top off those systems right there, getting the energy, remember those calories, the energy into your body ready for use. Caffeine, like we talked about, does improve performance, but create a plan for it. Again, you should have trained with these things before you do it on race day. And we need to train your digestive system to process this nutrition during training. Again, nothing new on race day. If you don't drink caffeine or have caffeine a lot, race day is not the day to start messing with it. As well as a new sports drink, or I'm going to try that stuff on course during the race today. I've never used it before. Again, pre-plan. If you're going to use on-course race nutrition, like in the past, in some of my races, they used certain brands. I would buy that brand, add it into some of my training, just because I knew I'd be relying on it while I was out there on the run course. Race day tips, again, this is also race day or training. Create a plan, follow the plan, and adjust the plan. Just because something's working for you doesn't mean that it can't work even better. Training is the time to experiment with these things. So many things out there, things to go by, but write down and understand what works for you. And don't just guess and do whatever you want every weekend. Like once something works, like I have a fueling strategy for myself that works, and it's just like I know now. An hour of a hard workout, that's what I'm doing. Hour easy, this is what I'm doing. 2-3 hours on the bike, this is what I'm doing. Deep into a marathon build, this is what I'm training with. Ultra running, this is what I'm doing. And I'll adjust things as I see like, oh, maybe I could use some more fuel today. Next time I'm going to start adding a little bit extra. Create a plan, write it down, and just work with it, and then just always adjust as needed. So this is, again, just one of those quick things we just talked about. What you're going to do 3 to 4 hours before, 1 to 2 hours before the start, swim start, bike. Wherever this came from, this person has a plan and they stick to it, and they probably do that every race that they go out there, and they've had successful races, and that's why they keep doing it over and over and over again. So remember to plan, execute that plan, adjust the plan. And we're at the end here. So after all this, take the 80-20 approach. Again, if you took all the information out of this, 80% of it, apply it, do pretty well with the 80%, I feel like you're going to make huge gains, and it's going to be really good and beneficial for you. Adjust as needed. Plan, execute, adjust. Adjust as needed, whether it was too much, something upset your stomach, kick it back, or you bonked a little bit in training. Add a little bit more next time. Train as you race as you train. Nothing new on race day. You step up to that line, you're like, hey, it's time for that victory lap. I know what I need to do. I know what I need to take. Stick to the plan and get it done. And don't forget to revisit and readjust as your goals change and your training changes. So you've had a successful year. You're all good. Training volume is going to go down now. revisit that pyramid bottom to top. Change your daily nutrition, change the amount of calories you're taking in. And if you're not doing such intense workouts anymore, maybe you don't need to fuel as much as you were. Maybe you're going into a plan now at the end of the year where you want to lose a few pounds for the next race season. That would be the time to do it. Periodize your training, periodize your nutrition. It will both match up. And again, revisit. So from time to time, you may make a bunch of notes here, execute those things. 4 or 5 months from now, you're like, I don't know what's going on. Revisit your nutrition. It's another discipline of all endurance sports. It's something that we just need to keep making adjustments on and keep fine tuning. So I hope you got something out of this talk today. Again, this was just the nutrition and fueling basics, throwing some ideas out there, getting the conversation started, and really just trying to clean up on it. You will perform better if you start to think about these things and just brush them up and get better at it. So that's the end for today. I hope you learned something on this. Again, stay safe out there, stay healthy, keep balancing life 1 mile at a time. And any questions, always feel free to reach out and throw me a message. Take care, and I'll see you soon.